friends and book lovers, welcome. Today's video, finally my September wrap-up plus my current reads, the books that I'm currently reading right now. This is the second time I'm filming this video because the first time the sound was just off. You couldn't hear me. Everything was just sounding like crinkly white noise and it was just awful. I was so disappointed with that, so I'm deciding to film it again because it was supposed to be posted last week and now it's being posted this week, so we're a little late, but please forgive me as we get right into the September wrap-up portion. So I don't know why, but ever since June I haven't been able to read more than like 3 or 4 books per month. I think June I read 11 books, so maybe I'm just on this weird slump since then, but also our mandates got lifted and everyone's being much more social, and I'm also being much more social, so it's been hard to kind of sit down and wrangle and read a bunch more books. But I read 3 in the month of September, so that's something, and I'll go through those 3. So the first one I read was The Rapture by C.N. Crawford. This is a fantasy romance novel, and it's a sequel to The Fallen by C.N. Crawford. This was one of those books that I got completely roped into via Instagram. I saw an ad for it and I was like, all right, yeah, that's something that I want to read. And the first one was interesting, so I thought I would check out the second one. And it wasn't that great. It was a little repetitive and it was a little redundant. The story and the plot weren't as interesting, or it needed as many pages as there were. So unfortunately, though it was still fun, it wasn't totally well thought out, I think, in my opinion, and the characters don't have a lot of depth to them either. I think this is just supposed to be kind of one of those more fun junk food type reads, but I give it a 2.5. I mean, there's some good smut in this. It was fun to read a fantasy romance novel, but I don't know that I'll be finishing this trilogy. I think it's called the Hades Castle trilogy, just because I'm not really sure how I feel about it and I'm not completely loving it. So I might want to spend my time reading other fantasy romance reads in this case where I think that I would really enjoy them much more. And there are a ton of popular trilogies and series fantasy romance out there that I really want to get my hands on. So unfortunately this one was kind of a dud for me, but I'm looking onto brighter fantasy romance pastures and I'm excited for those books. The next one I finished was the ultra popular Dune, and I had a good time reading this. This was a lot more layered and a lot more accessible than I thought it was going to be. A lot of the quotes and remarks and struggles in this book felt like they aged right. Not all of them. There are some that I agree with other folks' criticism that they didn't really do great or age well, but there are some, especially like sociological and ecological items in here that I was really surprised to see. We still struggle with these things in the modern world, and I thought that was mind-blowing that they were so current and that in that way this book has aged so well. I can definitely understand why this was so mind-blowing for its time period, because even for me this kind of blew my mind at parts as to I can't believe that this book was written in the 60s. I was expecting to kind of be middle of the road with it and be like, it's okay, but I was pretty blown away by it. There are definitely some things in here that I didn't like, definitely some things that definitely aged this novel back in the ideology of those days, and definitely kind of past thinking, past societal things, but overall I enjoyed it. I think I'm gonna give this one a 3.75. I'm between a 3.5 and a 4, and I know that I could always be convinced, but I still don't feel particularly strong for the 3.5 or the 4, because I liked it more than a 3.5, but I don't know that I liked it as much as a 4. This is definitely a book that I really want to reread in the future, because I think rereading something like this, something that's very complex, very quotable, is going to be a good reread, and I'm going to get a lot more out of it even the second time I read it. I don't know if I'm going to read the series that comes after this or if I'm going to keep it as a standalone. You could definitely keep it as a standalone. I know that people's perception and views of the character, of the story, change when they read the next few books, and for that reason I'm tempted to read the next one, which I think is Dune Messiah. I hear just the perception and the story evolves more and the themes become more obvious in that one. So we'll see. I'm not planning on reading that one right away, but I do hopefully in the future plan to read it and plan to get some more perspective on the story of Frank Herbert and his sons. So we'll see. And if you do want to watch a live show where we talk about this book and we discuss from all different perspectives, middle of the road, lovers, haters of the story, we had that live show on Joanna from Joanna Sousa's channel, so I will definitely be linking that down below. And you can definitely check out her live discussion because I thought that was really, really great, and I really enjoyed hearing all different sides and all the different critiques and loves and pros and cons for this book. I think they're all relevant and can definitely help with just forming other opinions and seeing other perspectives and critiques. I really enjoy that when I'm reading a book. So the book discussion was great. Highly recommend. And then I know Johanna also did a book discussion that was recorded on her channel. That's mostly people that love the book, but I still think it's worth the watch, so I will link that one down below as well. The third and final book that I read in the month of September was The Well of Ascension by Brandon Sanderson. So we finally got to this one after it being on like a million TBRs. Finally. I think at first I was a little intimidated by the length because it's almost 750 pages, and that's a really big chunk of a book. Figured it would take a really long time to read this, but actually it took me like a week, maybe less than a week. I buddy read this with Andrew over from Get Right On In, and we had a great time buddy reading this and talking about it. He had read the majority of this already, so I think he was remembering a lot of things, but this was my first time reading this book and I actually really enjoyed it. It was a really great story, and I did a book chat discussion where I discussed all my spoilery thoughts on it, and I will link that up above and down below as well in case you are a fan of this book and you want to see my spoilery perspective. You can go ahead and do so. But this one, I definitely gave it a 5-star, following The Final Empire, which is the first one, which also got a 5-star. So I'm really hopeful that Hero of Ages also gets a 5-star because I think that would be really great. My friends who have read the entire trilogy have said that they think that per what I enjoyed from this book and the first book, that they think I will give Hero of Ages a 5-star rating. So I'm really excited to have another favorite trilogy under my belt because I'm planning on finishing reading this trilogy before the end of the year, and I did a video on the series that I want to finish before the end of the year, so check that out. That goes through a bunch of them, and you'll be seeing some of those books on future TBRs, so definitely recommend that video as well. So now moving on to my current reads. I think the first one is Count of Monte Cristo. I mean, I'm halfway through this and I need to be more than halfway. The plan was to finish it in October, but I think I'll probably end up finishing it in the beginning of November. So you'll see this one probably on the November wrap up, the way it's going right now, but I'm having a great time reading this. I really like the unabridged version. It gives a lot more color than I think the abridged version would give, but either way, the story itself is just amazing. So far, my favorite is the first third of this because we get to go through the entire prison scenes, and those are some of my favorites. I love seeing the growth of a character, and that's definitely something that did happen in the first third of this, and I get to see the character kind of grow and develop more, and I'm so intrigued by the nuances of the interactions in this book. I think Dumas has done an amazing job with that, and it's just, I can understand why, like I've said before, Monte Cristo is a favorite among a lot of folks for a classic. So it's probably going to become a favorite of mine as well. And I'm already looking forward to a reread of this because it's going to be really good. I'm going to get to pick up things that I didn't even probably notice in this first round of reading, just because it is complex, it is very well woven, and everything like interweaves really well, but it's also very subtle and nuanced. So there's like that beauty in that kind of writing with Dumas' Count of Monte Cristo. So really looking forward to this one. I think we will be having a live show for the just entire book in November. I think we've put November 17th at 1 p.m. Eastern for that live show, but stay tuned. I'll put more announcements up on the Discord, and you guys should see an announcement on YouTube as well once I set that date down. But we're not going to do a live show for the second, third, just because it's kind of a more slow part of the book and there might not be as much exciting things to discuss. So we figured we'd skip this month, let y'all keep reading, and we will have that final live show in November. So that's really exciting, and I can't wait to discuss it with all of you and see what you all think of this book, how you're loving it so far. I know a bunch of us are talking on the Atlantis Discord about it, and that's just been great to have folks to talk about it with and to be able to ask questions on the Atlantis Discord as well. So let me know in the comments down below how you're liking Count of Monte Cristo if you are joining us for this read along. The next book I'm currently reading is Poison Song by Jen Williams, and I'm like not that far, but I'm planning on getting a really good amount of this done over the weekend. This is so far really good, and the epigraphs in this one are a little different than the epigraphs in the first two. I think I kind of know why that is, but again, Jen Williams in every book always just takes me in a completely different direction than I think. So putting predictions down for Poison Song it was incredibly hard. I don't even know that I put any predictions down because I was so just overwhelmed with the second one that I couldn't even think of what to even think would happen in the third one. And all my predictions that I put for the second one didn't even come true anyways, so I don't know, it felt kind of futile putting any predictions down for this one, but so far I'm really loving it. I've tabbed it up some just to remember some parts for when we do the live show, and I think that live show is scheduled on the 17th of October with Joanna and a special guest. So you should be seeing that thumbnail come up very soon, and I will be announcing that also very soon on YouTube. You guys should see it soon. So really excited to discuss that with those two folks. I am excited. I just don't even know what's gonna happen. I feel like I'm gonna be surprised until the very last page. That's how I feel like Poison Song is gonna go, but I'm really loving it, and you should definitely see this in a review video where I'm gonna review the entire trilogy very shortly, so be on the lookout for that video. The next book I'm reading is Master of Sorrows by Justin T. Call. This is the first in his, I guess, debut series. I think these are the first few books he's written, and this is supposed to be like a really long 14-book series. Again, if I'm wrong about this being one of his more first books or that series, let me know in the comments down below. I feel like I learned that it was going to be a long series from someone in the comments, so let me know again if I'm wrong or if I'm right. But this is kind of a Dark Lord origin story, and I think it's at a magic school. I've only read the 2 prologues so far, and this is also going to be my first grimdark book because apparently it's grimdark. I didn't even realize that. I just figured it sounded really cool, and also the cover is beautiful, so I'm a sucker for collecting beautiful books. There's only 2 in this series that have been released so far, and I think so far he's been releasing 1 a year, so hopefully he sticks with that. But even still, if it's a 14-book series, this is gonna go on for like 14 years. Wow, I just realized that. Shit. It's gonna be a long ass series. Either way, I'm excited to dive into this. I've been wanting to read it and review it and see what this is all about for the longest time. I've seen a couple folks on Bookstagram read this, and I haven't really seen anyone on BookTube read it. So if you've read it and you're on BookTube, or if you've read it in general and we talk, let me know in the comments down below, or just in conversation together, what you thought of this book, because I don't have a lot of opinions on it. I think on Goodreads it has a pretty decent rating, but I would love to hear your opinions on Master of Sorrows as well, and I can't wait to talk about this in a review coming soon because I want this to be a 5-star for me, and I think I predicted it to be a 5-star for me because it does sound really good, but I'm hesitant. I'm really hesitant. I'm really wondering how this is gonna go and where this is gonna take us, so stay tuned. So that was my September wrap up and the books that I'm reading right now. My October TBR, if you haven't watched it, I will link it up above and down below. We'll tell you all the books that I am going to be reading for the month of October, plus some leeway that I've left for myself to mood read. So if you want to know, please go watch that video. I always have fun filming my TBRs. If you like this video, please click that thumbs up button. That always helps me out. And if you like this content and you want to see more from me, please don't hesitate to subscribe.